You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Well, it's Later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
We are live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app and on YouTube. Let's talk with our latest guest, Obba Babatundé. He is a friend of the show. He has been on the show a number of times. You may know him as Pops Daniel Harrelson Sr., father of Hondo Shamar Moore on CBS's SWAT, which is scheduled to air Friday, May 9th at 9 p.m. But it's also a somewhat sad time because SWAT is coming to an end. But I'm quite sure Obba Babatundé has some words of wisdom, not only about that experience, but also the industry more broadly. So let me welcome you to the show. Obba Babatundé, it is great to see you again, my friend.
What a joy to be here with you again, Mo. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Last time I saw you, yes, we were talking about SWAT, and this is one of the many TV shows and movies that you've been on. I'm quite sure if people are watching our YouTube stream right now, they've seen you in any number of shows. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like Boston Legal, Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds. You've had a long, extensive career, specifically on television, but you've also done voiceovers for video games and movies. I think it was Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence Life. I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
Absolutely.
What has this business shown you over these many years?
Well, you know what? Thank you so much. It's a great question and it deserves a great answer. I'll do my best. You know, the thing that I have identified is that it is your do is not necessarily your who. Now, let me show you what I mean by that. Okay. Your do, as I have discovered, is what affects change in your life. But your who is how you have affected change in someone else's life.
Oh, wait. I think I know where you're going with this. The way I say it is my vocation versus my invocation.
That's exactly correct. Absolutely. And you know what? You know, the beauty of that is when you identify that your do is not necessarily your who. Like for somebody that's a bus driver, when their term of driving that bus at the end of the day, when they get off that bus, are they just a bus driver? No, they are a human being. They're somebody who has a life experience. And so to answer your question specifically about the industry of entertainment, through the journey of this, which has been a half a century, I just found out that I've got over 200 IMDb credits. That's
you showing off now.
No, I just found this out, and that doesn't include theater,
right?
And the no paying, low paying. That's earning a living at it. You know what I mean? And again, I have been able to identify that the relationships and the experience of dealing with human beings and creating something that we were talking about before we went on air, family being a different between family and relative. Relative, you had no choice in. Family is how one treats one.
Relatives are the ones you want to go home early from dinner. I know what you mean. Family can stay. Relatives got to go.
So that's one of the things that I would identify that I would answer the question with, is that I've been able to see how life is through the characters that I've played and through the people that I've gotten a chance to interact with in those in the off camera, in those circumstances.
I would say that you are an elder statesman in the television industry specifically. You've talked about your on-camera and off-camera relationship with Shamar Moore. You play his father on the show, but I'm quite sure you're a mentor off the show. Am I wrong?
Well, listen, I never set out to try to do anything but be an honest human being. And I come to every situation, Mo, to give, not to get. And so I've done the same thing with Shamar. And I do believe, have what is actually sort of maybe a surrogate dad in some sort of way. You know, and that relationship translates on screen. People have said, it seems like you guys are really father and son. Well, that's because we are committed to telling the truth to one another, off screen and on screen.
What does that truth seem like, sound like, feel like when you are dealing with the professional relationship of actor and actor versus the personal relationship of, I'll say, brother to brother?
Okay, great question again. It's no different than what you and I have. When we see each other, through the years that we've been able to interact with each other, we interact with each other on a human level. You see? And so that is the deal, is that, yes, you're a great host, and hopefully I'm a good guest. You know what I mean? But what happens is that right before we get on air, we're talking to each other as two human beings.
Yes.
So, two people. You see, every character that I've ever portrayed, when I only interested in playing fully realized human beings, I think that's been a key to my
Let me
success.
jump in there. You want to play fully developed characters and human beings, but is that something that you're bringing to the role? Because it may not always be written into the role.
Absolutely. And that was where I was going with this.
Okay.
And what I do is I write a backstory to every character that I portray. Okay. So that, whether it shows up in the script or not, it informs everything that character does, because I'm bringing to the project a fully realized human being.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. Now, do you ever get pushback from directors who may say, no, that's not the motivation for this character. That's not their backstory. That's not in the script.
Well, they don't know the backstory. I don't give them the backstory. See, it informs the work that I do. I don't tell the director or the producer or anything. I respect the writing that they've done. Now, if it seems like I am not bringing forth exactly what they want, then I ask them respectfully, can you help me? Because I'm not really understanding why my character feels like that in this situation. Mm-hmm. And they can say, as a director, well, Obba, this is what we're trying to get out of this. There's been in situations where I've been, a director will come over to me and say, hey, listen, you know what? In this particular scene, just ignore, that person. And I say, excuse me, but why am I ignoring them? If in actuality, I, in this scene, am trying to accomplish this. And they go, well, you know what? Honestly, I'm trying to get so-and-so. I say, ho, stop. Then you got to direct that person. Please don't direct my character, who I'm living this character's life, to be able to bring forth what you want from another actor or actress.
I'm curious, because you've had some 8 seasons to play Daniel Harrelson Sr., that character may occupy a larger space in your consciousness than maybe other characters.
You're so in tune, Mo. Let me explain something to you. In actuality, that the producers of the show came to me at one point and said, oh, but you know what? We've heard from everybody. I want to ask you, do you have anything in your life experience that you'd like to share with us? And I was able to give them that. And we ended up creating one of the episodes with using that information. They said, can we use that? And I said, absolutely. So again, I'm not acting. I'm living but I'm living the character in which I'm portraying. So that when that action starts, Obba is left in the trailer, or if it's on stage, he's left in the dressing room. And now I am Daniel Harrelson Sr. And Daryl Harrelson Sr. has a history. And in this production, he was a former Panther. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I have some of that experience because I grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, and there was a place where the Panthers actually worked out of. So I have that in my history. I've been on the planet for quite some time. Okay.
You're only 32, so don't play.
No, brother. Next time I see 30 anything, it'll have a 1 in front. And I'm planning on that as well.
Come on now.
So yes, I try to make sure that I incorporate all of those things. I'm so blessed in so many ways. It's not a day that I've walked down the street, any day, where if it's a gas station or a supermarket where somebody goes, hey man, you aren't you? Or do you know who you are? But it's always with a sense of a warmth and a smile. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's genuine. And it's because I've been able to hopefully bring something to their life, whether it was something that was a tumultuous situation that helped them get through, or whether it was something that made them smile and laugh. And so, I made a choice at the onset of my career, and I always tell people, I don't know if it was arrogance or confidence. I guess you'd have to ask, a little of each. But the deal was that I was going to go forth, and I was going to realized the potential power of the industry, that industry, those images that I project and others that do the same thing that I do, project on that small or large screen, have the potential of going around the world and suggesting to someone else who has never met you because we resemble in a hue, who you might be. And so why would I go forward and misrepresent you when you don't deserve that. So that was what I intended to do in my career, and I hope I've been able to scratch the surface of that.
My guest is Obba Babatundé. We're talking about the winding down. I'll call it the winding down of the series SWAT. They have actually a season and series finale coming up in the next week. We're going to get that with Obba Babatundé, friend of the show. I would like to call you my friend now as well. It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640, and also live on YouTube. You can watch this conversation.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. It's Later with Mo Kelly. We're live on YouTube. Right now, you can see this conversation. And, of course, on the iHeartRadio app. And I'm continuing my conversation with guest Obba Babatundé. You know him from such films as Life, Miss Evers Boys, Introducing Dorothy Dandridge, The Temptations, John Q. I remember that with Denzel Washington. And, of course, TV shows like Chicago Med, The Bold and the Beautiful, The Good Fight, NCIS, and more. He was showing off last segment, telling us of some 200 IMDb credits, and they're all earned. And Obba, let me remind people why we're talking specifically on this evening. You, of course, you played Pops Daniel Harrelson Sr. On CBS's SWAT. There's a very special episode coming up on Friday, this Friday, May 9th. As the show winds down, it is both a season finale and a series finale. Let's start right there. What does it mean for you when you see the end of a show and you've had some 8 seasons inhabiting a character? Is there a degree of not regret, but just almost like, I'll miss this person?
Yes.
Go ahead and turn your mic right there. Put that.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Is it on now? Okay. So yes, no, absolutely. You know, when you've been breathing life into a human being, you know, and creating, as I've done with Pops, of course, there is a reminiscent sadness that comes with that, you know, but I also miss the interaction with my crew, with the cast members, you know what I mean? But, you know, I've been doing it for so many years that everything has a conclusion. Now, I'd also like to say, as opposed to an end, is the point I'm making, you know, there's a possibility, you know, that we could be picked up by somebody else and we could keep right on going.
Let me jump in there because there have been a number of TV shows which may have started on broadcast television and they've segued either to another network or they've gone to a streaming platform. Talk to me about how streaming has impacted what you know as the television landscape.
Yes. Well, you know, been doing it so long that I've been able to have watch the maturation of how things have evolved. You know, we used to have what was called must-watch TV.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh, on Friday night, you know, that's my show. You know what I mean? And now we've identified that with streaming, that has changed. You know, everything has a sense of evolution. That's what I've been able to identify. And I've known that because of my career, I've been able to make adjustments and continue to do what it is that I do in the evolutionary stage. So I am not saying that, oh my goodness, you got to hold on. We got to make sure that this thing, but we have to identify if I've got something to say, or if I'm on a project that has something to say that speaks to the human heart source, okay, that somebody's going to tune it in and we're going to watch it evolve. Yes, I'm going to miss that crew. I'm going to miss that cast. I'm going to miss that interaction. And Daniel Harrelson Sr. is as much a part of me in certain ways as I am a part of myself. So that part is not going to go away. Obba Babatunde is still going to be Obba Babatunde.
You and I are both old enough. I think I'm about maybe 20 years older than you. But you and I are both old enough to remember SWAT, the TV show. Well, I was being serious. You and I both are old enough to remember SWAT, the TV show of 1970, I think 1975.
Yes.
Old enough to remember the movie in early 2000s. And now you have the SWAT TV show, CBS. Why do you think SWAT, that brand, has such an enduring appeal?
That's perfectly stated. You know, the deal is, and that was what I was leading toward when I said that when there's something that people are desirous of seeing, right? There's an energy. And what I'd like to say about our SWAT is that you get an opportunity in this character with Pops and the relationship between, you know, Daniel Harrelson Sr. and Junior, right, is the family aspect of it. You see, because we forget that the men and women in uniform, be they military, be they police, be they whatever, first responders, that they're also human beings and that they have a life and an experience outside of the job that they do. And I think one of the things that was so successful about this particular production is that it gave us an opportunity, us being the world population, being able to see who these people are when they take that uniform off.
I've always liked the dynamic. You hinted at it last segment because you talk about Senior's history connected to the Panthers.
Yes.
And he was not too big on his son become a member of LAPD.
Absolutely.
Talk about how that intra storyline evolved over the years and seasons.
Oh, yes. Because again, as Daniel Harrelson came back in, he had at that time a particular, an illness. And so, Hondo had to come back and he had to bring him into the city to live with him, to look after him, right? And so it was rough. It was not just the fact that this is what the double deal was. It wasn't just the fact that he had an issue with him, that Daniel Harrison Sr. had an issue with him because here he is a SWAT guy, not head of a SWAT team, right? But also Daniel Harrison Sr. had left the family for another relationship. So here you had these two dynamics coming together, what he felt as a child and what Daniel felt about him now in his profession. So we had these two things, and that caused a fury, an energy.
It was a good on-screen tension.
Yes, great on-screen tension, and it also helped us to graduate, not just play just that business. We were able to play that which was the human experience between a father and a son, a man and a man. You know what I mean? It was just perfect.
Before we go to this next break, I'm also curious, what did you hear from actual members of law enforcement? Of course, you had your advisors on set to make sure it was as accurate as possible. But I'm quite sure, because you say, and I understand, you'll probably recognize any number of places you may go, and you're associated and connected to the SWAT TV show. What did you hear from law enforcement?
You know what? You guys do a good job over there, man. We really appreciate the fact that you show more than just what we do on a daily basis. You guys are really, in a way, helping us to be able to live our lives both on the job and off the job, because we are able to be identified in our humanity as well as what we do as work. So that was a high praise, and I really appreciated the fact.
We have the May 9th episode coming up on Friday. What should we expect with that?
Let me tell you something.
All right.
Pops is getting busy on this episode. Don't you take your eyes off the screen, because y'all know Pops don't take no mess.
No, in the James Brown sense. Papa don't take no mess.
That's right. And so they have given me an opportunity to cut loose and to do something which I've always wanted to do as Pops, and I'm appreciative of that opportunity.
When we come back, I just want to riff with you, and I want to hear from you. I want to give you time to think about it, so I'm going to preview this. I want to hear about some of your favorite roles beyond Daryl Harrelson Sr., and the ones that still live with you, even though you may not inhabit them anymore. Can you do that for me?
If we got enough time. There's a lot of them, baby.
All right, then. I like it. Obba Babatundé, you know him from SWAT. He's joining me in studio as the series of SWAT winds down, not only for the season, but as the series as a whole. It's later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640, live on YouTube and the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. It's later with Mo Kelly. We're live on YouTube at Mr. Mo Kelly and also on the iHeartRadio app. And if you've been tuning in tonight, you've probably been enjoying this conversation as much as I have with actor Obba Babatundé. You know him from SWAT. He plays Daniel Harrelson Sr. and I would say 3,500 other roles. And let me use that as a lead-in, because before the break, I was asking Obba some of the roles which you've inhabited over the years, which still stay with you, or you are most proud of, or most meaningful to you. What would they be?
You know what? I've had the great opportunity to portray some living human beings. I mean, I got an opportunity to play Barry Gordy. I got an opportunity to play Harold Nicholas. I did a musical where I played Sammy Davis Jr. Miss Evers Boys is a movie that I did. It was my first, primetime Emmy nomination. And to tell that story about the life of those men and women, and the challenges that they had that was put upon them by the country. For those of you who have not had an opportunity to see it, I would respectfully suggest that you go forward and see Miss Evers Boys. It was an HBO production. Had great Alfred Woodard, Joe Morton, the great Ossie Davis. I mean, a host of just brilliant actors. Lawrence Fishburne, and we got a chance to tell this story about these men and women and what was going on that actually went on, Mo, in our lifetime.
Yes.
This is not something that's antiquated, like, they're talking about like, well, it was a slave movie. No. This went on during our lifetime where there was it was called, we had to identify the effects of untreated syphilis in the African-American male.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is actually
Tuskegee experiment,
right? And so that character for me is something that's very, very special because it crossed a period of time and was not just while it was. I didn't play a particular individual. I played a copulation of all of those men and women's lives and what was going on in their lives at that time. And so that would be one of the ones that I would say that I was extremely proud of. I mean, I've gotten an opportunity, in Philadelphia, in the movie Philadelphia, that.
I forgot that. I'm sorry. There's just so many.
Yeah. But I mean, here it was giving the opportunity to have people to be identified not by their illness, but by their humanity who happen to be inflicted with an illness. Mm-hmm. So I mean, each one, I have had so many great opportunities to portray human beings. As I talked about the fact that with Sammy Davis Jr., who, was my entertainment mentor, and to be able to get to meet him. He was a person that I saw growing up on that black and white television in my family's living room.
You and me both had a little black and white Philco.
Yes. And then to be able to see a man who was identified as one of the greatest entertainers in the world, and then to later meet him, and for him and I to become friends, and if I can give you a quick story
Sure.
about, I was co-starring in a world tour with Liza Minnelli, and he was going to be doing his world tour at the same time we were doing ours, so we would proceed or follow one another into the different venues around the world. And so he had come, was our last closing night, and his was the next opening night at Lake Tahoe and Harrods. And so Liza knew I was a big fan, and she says, "Oh, Sammy's here and he wants to meet you." And I said, "Well, can he see me after he's seen me work?" I don't know, that was an actor thing, but whatever. She says, "No, he's not going to stay for the show." So anyway, I go on. And I do the show, and afterwards, I come off for a costume change, and Liza's dressed, and Helen says, "Obba, Liza said to tell you that Sammy stayed." So great, all right, I would have done my show anyway. Afterwards, there's a knock on the door, and I say, "Yes." It's.
Oh, sorry. If you know what Sammy sounded like.
He says, "Oh, listen, man, it's Sam." I opened the door, and there he stood. Right?
You even did the eye.
And he looked at me and he says, "You, my man, are a bitch on wheels. A bitch on wheels. I got to tell you, you're marvelous." And he paid me a lot of nice compliments. And I invited him in, and I said to him, because remember we were at Lake Tahoe at Harrods.
Yes.
And I said to him, I looked at him in his eye, and I said, "Mr. D," because I could never call him Sammy.
Right.
I said, "Mr. D, I want to thank you, sir, for coming in through the kitchen so I could come in through the front door."
For those who don't know, when Sammy Davis was at the height of his fame, he was not allowed, and like the Club Copacabana, if I'm not
That's
mistaken, he was not allowed to actually enter where anyone other performer would. He had to come in and leave through the kitchen.
Absolutely.
Just want to give context around
No, absolutely. Tear ran down his face, and he said, I said, "I'm sure you've heard this enough, many times." He says, "I could never hear it enough." And we became fast friends from that point, 1978 until his passing in 90, and I still try to keep that legacy alive.
Before I let you go, it is unfortunate. We were talking about how SWAT is winding down its final 2 episodes, May 9th and also May 16th at 9 p.m. on CBS. That is important, but I also want people to know you beyond that. you also have an affinity for Lando Calrissian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Well, I was doing some voiceovers at one point, and so I played Lando Calrissian in most of the game shows that the game video things that you see. And I was in the studio, and they said, hey, Mr. Williams, he doesn't want to do it anymore. Do you
As in
think,
Billy D.
As in Billy D. Williams. He said, do you think that you could do? And I said, well, what is it that you want me to do? Are you trying to explain to me? I said, well, I'm going to tell you one thing. If you want me, maybe I'll just say, we want my arm to fall off. And they said, you got the job.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know what to say. You probably have a million stories like that.
Yes.
And I always say at the end of it all, we only have our stories. It's not about the money. It's not about the titles. It's not even about the IMDb credits. It's about the stories that we can tell for the future generations. Give me one more story of your choice before we part.
A beautiful story is that, and I want to share with everybody that's listening and watching, that understand that everything that you do, nothing in your life is wasted. Nothing. You throw the ball against the wall, Mo, it's coming back. I throw it, it's coming back. Everybody in the studio, that ball's coming back. Don't worry about when it's coming back. Just know that it is. Okay? So, I'm going to give you an example of that.
All right.
1978, as I mentioned, I was doing a world tour with Liza Minnelli. Okay? The fourth show, we would do 4 shows and then we would have a break off and go somewhere else. And the 4th show, there was a young lady, a young girl. She was at the stage door. She had been there every night. I walked in, she said, hi, Obba. I said, you here again tonight? She said, yes, but it's sold out. And I jokingly said, listen, you've been in here long enough, you could be in the show. And I went inside, and what I decided would be nothing other than a random act of kindness. I went out and I said to security, hey, she's with me, let her in. I put her in a chair in the wings. And I said, stay out of everybody's way, enjoy the show. Okay? 20 years later, I'm trying to get into this movie, Life, starring Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence. For whatever reason, I don't know what it was, but the casting director would not allow me to come in and audition. And we tried everything we could. 2 weeks later, after we gave up, they said, hey, Obba, we got a call. They want to see you. So I said, great. So I go in, and there's the casting director, bless her heart. She was sitting with her, I guess she didn't think I was right. Anyway, she was sitting with her legs crossed and her arms folded, and she said, we're going to put you on tape. I said, okay. The director, he was on the phone. He said, hey, man, good to see you. We're going to put you on tape. So I go on tape. 2 days later, we get a call. You booked a role. All right, great. I go to work, okay? I'm on my way the first day on set, going to the thing, and this woman comes out. And she says, how do you do? My name's Tina Fortenberry. I said, well, it's nice to meet you. She says, I've met you twice before. She said, I met you. You did the movie Philadelphia. I said, yes. She said, I was a PA on that movie. I am now the assistant to unit production manager, Jim Brubaker on this production. I said, oh, it's great. She said, but I also met you many years ago. You did something very nice for me. I was a fan of Liza Minnelli. I said, wait a minute. You were that young girl that I put in the chair? She said, yes. And I didn't know why they wouldn't bring you in, but I would go in every day and stand and say, Obba Babatundé, he's good, you should bring him in. I think they brought you in so I wouldn't come in and say that anymore. But I would like to think. She says, now what happened was you went on tape and Brian Grazer saw you and said, that's the guy I want. The Brian Grazer, right? Imagine, pictures, said, that's the guy I want. So the point that I'm making is that I had no idea at that moment that the random act of kindness, something that I was going to do was going to pay dividends in my life some 20 years later. So identify, that has happened to me time and time again. And I suggest to everyone that is watching and listening, know that about your life, that there is nothing wasted. What you invest will return. And if it's garbage, garbage is coming back. And if it's greatness, greatness is coming back.
And the church would say, you preaching now. You preaching, and I love it. I love it. Obba Babatundé, we've talked any number of times over the years, and it's always like the first time I got to talk to you because I learned something new, and I love that you get to share it with not only me, but everyone listening and now watching. Please, this is not going to be the last time we have this conversation, are we?
Not at all, man. Invite me back anytime. I'm happy to come. And I always enjoy, and thank you for what you do. And thank you for all of those who are watching, who have supported my career throughout the years. I couldn't have done it without that love and connection. Thank you very much.
Now, I am going to ask the next time you come back, you stop trying to show me up with that baritone, silky smooth voice, all right?
Listen, man, I can't help the way I speak.
Oh, and it got deeper. Did you know they got deeper before he left?
Listen, I could say it like this, and that might make someone very happy.
Now you're just showing off. Obba Babatundé, always great to see you, my friend.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much.
It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640 live everywhere, the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. It's Later with Mo Kelly. We're live on YouTube and the iHeartRadio app. And let me just take you behind the scenes for a second. There are times where I have to be really, really present. And I would say blessed, be aware of the blessing of having the opportunity to have certain conversations with people that just hit a little deeper and mean a little bit more than other conversations. It's great to talk to anyone on the show, but when you have conversations like that with Obba Babatundé, who's dropping pearls of wisdom, not only on air, but off the air, to have him go into Sammy Davis Jr. and Billy D. Williams on the fly, and also we have the opportunity to show it to you. All of this came together, and it was a wonderful, wonderful moment. And during the break, Obba Babatundé was telling us just to remember that we don't need to ask permission to be great. And that's something that I'm going to take with me. You don't need anyone's permission to be great. And he had so many just tidbits of wisdom that get to live on, because not only did you hear them, we got the podcast, we have the video podcast, and it makes doing this job all the sweeter. And I don't take it for granted. And I wish you could have seen Mark Ronner's face and Sam Zia's face during the conversation. I could tell when a guest owns the room. And when you're talking about radio, when a guest owns the room, we're talking about thousands and thousands of people who happen to also be listening. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as we did in this studio. Yes, you may recognize them from this, that, and the other, but it's another thing when you have someone who has something to say of value. There are a lot of folks who may come in this studio and they only want to talk about their project. I'm here to hawk this book. I'm here to promote this movie. Let's talk about my TV show. And there's not much more to them. There's not a lot of depth. And then you have people like Obba Babatundé who have this wealth and expanse of knowledge, which can be meaningful in your life regardless of age. And I just absolutely loved it. Please, if you didn't hear all that conversation, check it out on the podcast that Tuala's putting together right now. Sam, we got you on camera right now. So very quickly, what did you take away from that conversation?
Really, I wish people were able to hear the off-air stuff, because there were some life-changing gems that he was dropping. You don't need you don't need anybody's permission to be great. That's something that I felt a weight come off me as soon as I heard him say that. It's almost like he gave me permission to give myself permission. That felt empowering. It was really cool.
Gary Hoffman just hit me on text, and he said that was a fun interview. Yeah, it was very fun. And someone who sits in this chair knows what it's like to be able to be in those moments where you're really in it. You have a great guest, and it just makes it so much easier. Mark, I know he broke you up at one point with those impressions.
Well, it's the Sammy story, of course. I mean, I'm keyed into all that stuff, and I watch Sammy clips and pass them around to my friends to this day. And so I love hearing about that stuff.
And as I was saying, as we get older, all we have of value are the stories that we can tell. And he has 1,001 great stories beyond himself. And I'm glad that he could share them with not only us, but with all of you. KFI AM 640 and YouTube. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
If it doesn't affect you, we're not interested.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.